Joe wrote in saying, "Hi, can Mr. Coulombe address usury? The church seems to have been silent on the issue for a few centuries. What are examples today of loans that are permissible by Catholic moral theology, and what are examples of loans that are sinful? Thanks." It's a great question.
It is a tremendous question. I wish I were better prepared for it. However, I can say that one of the interesting modern things, I've just finished going over the Compendium of Social Doctrine, which you can find, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, on the Holy See website. A lot of good stuff in there, and they deal with usury. And they talk about what a terrible thing usury is and how it ruins economies and ruins people's lives because they run up these huge debts,
Right.
of which, the principal is a teeny tiny bit.
It's an interesting compare and contrast, I think, because back in the day when you wanted a loan, it was like, well, what is this loan for? What are you doing? But now it's sort of, like with credit cards, you can do whatever you
Do
want.
whatever you want, as long as you pay an enormous amount of interest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would be very difficult for me to give an exact answer to this question in terms of what would be sinful, what wouldn't. I can tell you what was done in the Middle Ages, and that might, if you take out a loan, you're a victim of whatever they want to do for you, and taking out a loan in this case also includes a credit card. But, personally, I only have debit cards now.
Right.
But that's because I'm cheap. But you don't get into insurance with debit cards, and you don't spend more than you actually have.
Right.
Which is another problem, a related but separate problem to usury as a sin, is also the fact that the credit economy has gotten everyone used to living beyond their means.
Yeah.
And they run up these huge debts, most of which are in fact interest. And then they go crazy trying to pay them. But anyway, I can only really answer the question with the way it was done in Catholic times, the Middle Ages. You're right, they would ask, what is this for, and so forth. And they generally asked for collateral worth more than the actual loan. So in other words, they would charge 1 to 2% interest. And that was purely for the, what you might call the servicing of the loan.
Right.
But let's say you wanted 200 florins. You would be expected to bring something to them that was worth maybe 300 florins.
What if you didn't have anything? So you had to be of means to get a loan.
You had to be of means to get a loan. But what would happen, though, let's say you defaulted on the loan.
Yeah.
They would sell the thing, right? Now remember, it's worth 300 florins. They would take their 200 plus the 1 or 2% and give you the remainder.
Okay.
So, it'd be unfortunate if you having to part with whatever the object was. And I'm using kind of a grotesque example because obviously most people didn't require loans that big, and so the collateral didn't have to be that big. But, and here's the big but, in order to, they had certain religious orders that specialized in doing this. And there's an institution in Western Europe and in Latin America called the Mons Pietas, Mountain of Piety. And they specialized in loans for the poor. But what if you didn't have any collateral at all? And what if you didn't want to go through the rigmarole? Where did you go to get a loan? You went to the Jews. Because they were not bound by the laws against usury, not being Catholic. And so that meant that they could charge whatever interest they liked, but they would give loans that the Mons Pietas and these other places wouldn't look at. So on the one hand, you'd have to pay a lot more than you would to these others, but on the other hand, you were likely to get it if you didn't have any collateral. That's what the Merchant of Venice is all about.
Seems like a really complicated issue because it seems like there is a definite good to the modern loan system in a sense then compared to the previous, which is that How could you get a house? I mean, how could you put up $500,000 collateral for a
Well,
house?
you wouldn't. What would happen is that you and your neighbors would build your house.
Ah. But we live in a world of specialization. What if
We
you're not
sure
in
do.
construction?
We should. Well, see, remember the key to this modern world is usury. The usury came first.
Okay.
But you're right. I mean, it is. We live in a world so far removed from that, and from most of the world as it is today. If you lived in some favela or something in the third world, your neighbors would help you put up the ticky-tacky. Or if you lived under a bridge here at Alvarado Street, your neighbors would help you put up your ticky-tacky, and that was it.
Well, okay.
But it's not an easy question to answer, and I wish I had an easy answer for you, and I don't.
So, are you saying it's better if we constructed our own homes nowadays? Because
Well, in theory it would be, but you pointed out a problem, and the problem with that
Yeah.
is that it's very difficult to do that. I mean, if I were to construct a house myself, it would probably be made out of cardboard because I'd be too lazy to get the wood going. In the first rain, it would be ruined.
Yeah.
The thing is, we do have a very artificial economy based upon usury. And it's based upon this enormous amount of debt being serviced. It's like a merry-go-round.
Yeah.
If that merry-go-round ever stops, we'll all be stuck. And I can think of any number of reasons why it would stop.
Yeah.
China holds most of our paper. And the thing is, that's a tiger by the tail situation. Because on the one hand, they could destroy us.
But
They destroy themselves.
Exactly. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Exactly. So, round and round and round it goes, and where it stops, nobody knows.
Random fun fact, Mark Stein, I read his book, he says that the interest that China gets on their debt, or our debt, they finance their military with. That's how much of our debt they own. Just a fun fact. Yeah. So it's a lot.
Isn't it wonderful that President Nixon opened China's doors? You were saying.
Okay.